This is week 9 and I would like to show you how to use Selenium IDE. Okay, so let me make this bigger so everyone can see it. So a lot of you will be asking, what is Selenium? Selenium is the most popular free automation tool in the marketplace. So whenever you hear the word open source, that means it's a free tool, hence why it's very popular. Selenium has a family of suites. In fact, when we say Selenium, we actually mean 4 different products. The first product is what we call Selenium IDE. The second product is what we call Selenium Remote Control. While the third one is what we call Webdriver. And the last one is what we call Selenium Grid. So let me quickly explain what each of them do. The first one, IDE, is a recording tool that allows you to record a GUI functional test, and it creates HTML script for you. The second one, Selenium Remote Control, this essentially allows you to create your script in any programming language you want to use. So for example, you could use Java, you could use C#, Python, Perl, the list goes on and on and on. The third one, Selenium Webdriver, is essentially very similar to the second one, and in fact they do the same thing as well. The Webdriver allows you to convert your Selenium IDE script into any programming language you want to use, and also empowers you to do more with it. And the last one is what we call Selenium Grid, and essentially this allows you to run parallel tests on different machines at the same time. So that's more of performance. So in this video, I'll be showing you how to use Selenium IDE. I would also show you how to convert your Selenium IDE script into Webdriver JavaScript. So I'll show you that very shortly, or Java code. Okay, so let's get started. A lot of you by now would have downloaded Selenium IDE. So if you have it downloaded, open up your Firefox browser and click on this link. So this link here would actually open up Selenium IDE, or this icon rather. So when you have it open, you're going to see something like this on your screen. It's a very simple tool, a lot simpler to use than QTP. Let me explain some of the features to you. So this is how you control the speed of your playback. So you do a recording and you play back and you notice it's too fast, you can reduce the speed this way. This button here is to play the test suite. So whenever you start up Selenium, there will be a new test case open up for you, but you can create as many test cases inside one test suite. So the idea is maybe I have 25 test cases as my regression test case, and I want to convert all of those 25 test cases into automation script. I would have one suite and I'll have 25 test cases inside, and I'll just push this button and this will run the entire test suite. The next one is how if you want to run just one individual test case, and we'll be using this very shortly. So let's get started. Let's record a very simple script that will log me into the new Taurus website and log me out as well. So to get started, I'll click on the record button. Now if it's your first time doing this, there'll be nothing here. There'll be no base URL. So the idea is you will go type the website you want to go to, have it open, then you open up your IDE and you click on record. Now because I've done this before, I have it saved. So I'll just find the website I want to go. It's saved already. I'll turn on my recording with this button here, and I can minimize it, and I know it's recording. So I'm just going to log in with tutorial, and the password is tutorial. Once I've logged in, I'll log out with a very simple test case. So I'll sign off, and I'll close the browser. Okay, so that's a very simple test case. Let's see what we have recorded. So I'll stop recording. This is very important. Selenium doesn't know when to stop, so you have to manually stop it. So I'll stop recording, and in here we have our first Selenium script. Let me explain what we have in front of us. The first line is, most of the time for a lot of people, is always open. So you're trying to open up a browser, and the backslash is essentially telling Selenium to use the base URL. So it knows, okay, open the base URL, and that's how that works. Once I'm in there, I typed in tutorial as my username, and I typed in tutorial as my password. Then I clicked on the login, and I signed off. If you notice, there's one thing missing here. There's no script for the browser. I closed the browser, but Selenium did not pick that up. And that's because in general, Selenium does not record, you opening the browser and you closing the browser. It does not do that. In fact, Selenium expects you to have the browser open at all time before you run your test script. So this is our very first test case. If you want to see the HTML code, click on the source file, or the source tab rather, and you can see the raw HTML file. If I want to pass this test case to a friend of mine, all I have to do is copy the HTML from here and send it off to my friend. Okay, so I've just showed you how to do a very simple, let me delete this, a very simple record. Let's make it bigger. Record in IDE. I'm trying to make it bigger. Okay, there we go. Now the next thing I want to show you is what we call a command in Selenium. So let's go back into Selenium. So I'm going to show you what a command is. Now I call it Selenium, but you understand I mean IDE. A command is a function that you do with the keyboard or the mouse. Now if you notice that when I went to the browser, the command was to open up a browser, then I typed something in, then I typed the password in, then I clicked on the login button, and I clicked on the sign off button. So the command is essentially what you do while you're doing your recording. Selenium has over 500 commands. Look at that. There are tons of commands that Selenium IDE has for you to use. There's no way you can know everything. There's no way you can remember everything. But they've made it easy to understand how to use a command. Let me create a new line in here. And for example, I want to find out how can I use this command called type. So when you start typing the first letter, Selenium shows you the different options it has for type. If I select the type and I go into my reference tab, I can see exactly how to use this command. So it's telling me that the type expects two things. We call it arguments. The first argument is a locator, which is essentially the target. And the second argument is a value, which is telling me the value for the computer to type in. So you can see now that I know if I want to use this type, I need a locator, which is the element, the GUI element I want to interact with, and the value I want to put into that GUI element. That's a command. So don't forget to always go into your reference. I still do that whenever I'm using a new command. I go into the reference and I read on how to use the command. The next one is what we call the target. right here. What is a target? A target is the object that the command is working on. So a target is the object that the command is working on. So for example now, I was working on the username, so let's open it up. So I did something here. So here is the target. This is a target. This is a target because I did something with them. So that's our target. And you might hear the word sometimes a GUI element. What is a GUI element? A GUI element is essentially all the targets you have on a website. And that could be a text box. That could be a drop-down box. That could be a button. That could be a radio button. It could be an image. You know, essentially any GUI element, anything, any target that you can use on a website is a GUI element. A link is also a GUI element. So if you hear the name GUI element, they essentially mean the target. And lastly, the value. The value, which you can see in here, is essentially what you type into the target. Now note that not every command would have a value. As you can see in here, this command here does not have a value, and that's normal. There will be some actions that you do that you don't provide any value. Okay. Now the next thing I want to talk about is let's play back. How do I play back my script? So I have a very simple script in here that records me logging in and logging off. So to play back, the browser has to be open. So you have to go open up your browser. So I open up my Firefox. Now I don't have to go into the website because Selenium knows where to go, but you have to make sure that the browser is open. Now let me play back. So I'll remove this extra line to make sure that doesn't fail. Yep, delete that line. And as always, make sure you click on the first line before you start running your test script. So I'll click on this line and I'll push this one here because I only want to run one script. So let's run it. So as you can see on the left hand side, it went to the website, it logged in to the website, and it signed me off. So that's how you play back. Okay. The next topic I want to talk about is checkpoints. So as you guys know, there is no automation without a checkpoint. The idea is whenever you run a script or a test case, you want to make sure that the expected result is what is coming back. And the good news here is there are three types of checkpoints in Selenium. The first one is what we call the asset command. The second one is what we call the verify command. The third one is what we call the wait for command. What is the difference between these three checkpoints? The first checkpoint would always stop the test if the checkpoint fails. The next one will carry on, meaning continue the test or continue running the test even if the checkpoint fails. Continue running the test if the checkpoint fails. And the last one is essentially a verify, but you specifying the time. So I can say wait for 30 seconds. If you don't see the checkpoint, fail it, but carry on. Or wait for 5 seconds. So, you know, the idea is you specify how long you want the checkpoint to wait for before if it checks if the checkpoint is in there. Let me show you how to use this in Selenium. So what I'll do is open up my Selenium, and for example now I logged in, and when I logged in I want to check that there's a welcome message that was displayed to the user. So now I've done my recording already, but I want to add a checkpoint. So how do I do that? It's very simple. I right click here to create a new command. So there's a new line in there. And I go into the Selenium, I go into the website, I want to do my checkpoint. So let's log in. Tutorial, sign in. Okay, now I want to check for this message. Use our flight finder to search blah blah blah. I want to check for this. So what I do is I go into my IDE and I click on the record button. And when I get here, I'm going to highlight exactly what I want to check for, and I'm going to right click on it. When you right click on it, Selenium will give you different options for the checkpoint. The first one is assert. So we know that now that, well, I can use this guy here, assert. The second one is verify, and the third one is wait for. So if I use the assert, and that's it. That's how you do it. That's how you add a checkpoint into it. You can see right there that I have a code or a script to do my checkpoint. Let's run this. Let's make sure it works. So delete the extra line, and I'm just going to press playback. Recording is still on, so let's turn it off so we can play back. So it's logging me in. It's clicking on the login button, and it did my checkpoint and it logged me out. As you can see here, there's an extra green, bolded green color on that checkpoint. So this tells me it passed. Let me try something. Let me try to make it fail. So I'm going to add an extra 1 to the value. Now this should fail because there's no 1 on the website. But let me show you, so you see the difference between assert and the other checkpoint. So I'm going to play back right now, push the playback, and it's going to log me in. Then you can see right away it failed. Now once it failed, you can see that the test stopped right there because this guy didn't run. Because if you ran, it will have a slightly green background color. So if you want your test to fail and stop right there, if the checkpoint fails, you use assert. Let's change assert. Let's change it to verify. So to change it, I'll click on it and I'll change my command to verify. Now because it's a text, I'm verifying. So I'll click on the verify text right there. Okay. Now this should fail as well because there's no 1 on the website. But let me just show you that verify will carry on running. So go back to the top and run the test again. And it's logging me in. And you can see that my checkpoint did fail, but it actually carried on to sign me out. So that's the difference between assert and verify. And the last one, wait for, you can also use that as well. Now for wait for, some of you might not want to wait for 30 seconds. 30 seconds is the default wait time in Selenium. To change that, to make it something much quicker, what you can do is this. You click on your options and you click on options, and right in here, this is the default wait time. The default is actually 30 seconds. I believe in class I changed it to 60 seconds. Right? So you can change it to something lower, or you can change it to something higher. But this is where you specify the default wait time. Okay? And now Selenium uses milliseconds, and as you know, 1000 millisecond equals 1 second. So 60,000 millisecond is essentially 60 seconds. Okay, so let's keep moving. So we've talked about how to do a simple record and playback. We've talked about how to add checkpoint, and I explained to you we have 3 different types of checkpoints. Alright, the next thing I want to show you in Selenium is how to do a regular expression. So for example now, in this test case we have, or this test script we have, This is failing. Oh, let me close that. Okay. This is failing because it's checking for the whole thing. What if I'm not really interested in checking for the whole thing? Maybe I just want to verify that the website indeed does have use our flight finder. That's it. I don't want to check for anything else. Now I have to tell Selenium IDE to ignore everything after finder. Or I can say ignore everything before use. It doesn't really matter. But to do that, this is what you do. You use a keyword called globe. So I'll delete the ones I don't need. Then I'm going to tell Selenium that this is a globe. It's telling Selenium that I'm using a regular expression. So I'll use globe, semicolon, and I'll put a star at the end of it. The star means ignore everything after finder. That's what the star means. Okay, so let's try it out. So this will log me in. So let's run the test. And as you can see, it logged me in and he actually passed it because indeed he could find use our flight finder and he ignored everything else as well. This will come in handy for you, so please remember this. There are certain times where you don't want to check everything or everything changes all the time. Maybe you're trying to check a block of text and a certain few things are always changing in that block of text. So how do you verify your checkpoints? You essentially find what does not change and you tell Selenium IDE to ignore the others. And the perfect example of this is timestamp. If you're trying to verify a timestamp or a message that has a timestamp with it, you know that every time you run that test, the message part of it will stay the same, but the timestamp would always change. So you can tell Selenium to ignore the timestamp. Alright. Now let me show you the commonly used debugging features. Because as you know, the work in automation is not really to record and play back. That's really easy. The work is when something goes wrong, when there's a failure, something failed, and you're trying to figure out how can I get this to work. And that's what I'm going to show you how to do that. So for example, now everyone knows how to record, everyone knows how to play back. Sometimes you might want to add a new line, so you can add a new script in there. It's very simple. You right click and you press insert new command. Then you click on your record and you can bring in your new recording. Sometimes you have a line that you're not sure if this line is going to work or not. So for example, now I'm thinking this is the problem child. So if I only want to run this line without running the entire script, this is what I do. I right click on it and I press execute this command. As you can see right away, it actually worked. So tutorial was added to this box. But the entire script did not run. I just ran one line. Let's try for the password. So I'm just going to run the password as well. So I'll right click on this and I say I just want to run one command. So I'll press execute this command. And as you can see as well, I have my password created for me. Just one line. So this might help you in your debugging. Some other debugging tools we have is what we call the breakpoint. So if I insert a breakpoint, what does this mean? This is telling Selenium that stop here. So it means start the test, keep running. When you get here, stop. And you could need that for several reasons. Maybe there's something failing, maybe this line is failing, and you want to see exactly what the website has before Selenium runs that particular line. So what will you do? You add a breakpoint there and you say run everything, when you get here pause. So once it gets there it stops and you can see exactly what's going on. To turn off your breakpoint, you just right click on it and you press toggle breakpoint. Same thing here as well. There's something called the start point, so I can say always start from here. So this is like opposite of breakpoint. So I can tell Selenium that always start the script from here and maybe break here, right? You can play with it in different ways, or I can just say, well, Just start from here and run the entire script. So these are little features that will help you when you're trying to debug your script. As always, remember that you won't always get a green. Sometimes you might get a red. And now let me show you how to debug this script. So I ran my test suite. I noticed one of my test cases is failing. What will I do? I will click on it, and I can see right away this is the line that is failing. Now you click on the line and you go into your log to see exactly what the message is. So I can see that the message is telling me that Selenium IDE could not find this target. So it's telling me login JID_4A could not be found. So what I can do is I can record again. So I can create a new line, insert a new command, right? Press my record again and just repeat that same action or command. So that's one way I can fix it. The other way is what I'm going to talk about very shortly. Okay. So I've shown you how to do regular expression. The keyword is globe, and don't forget your star at the end of it. We've talked about how to do debugging in IDE, and I showed you how to use the log to read the error messages, and I also showed you how to do things like breakpoint, how to do things like your starting point. I showed you how to insert a new command, and the list goes on and on. Alright, the next thing I want to talk about is what we call locators. Locators. Locators helps us to find our targets. So locators helps us to find our targets. So we know the target already. When we're doing a recording, Selenium actually creates the target for us. We don't need to know about it. But there will be times where you have to do things manually. For example, now I'm trying to fix this here. I don't know exactly why can't you find this target. That means I have to do it manually. To do it manually, we use a tool called Firebug. So Firebug is a Selenium locator. And I've showed you guys in class how to download Firebug. So right now, let's open up Firebug. So Firebug will be in your browser as well, and it has an icon that looks like an ant or a bug, I guess from the name Firebug. So I'll click on my Firebug to open it up, and you see right away, you will see this little window open up on the bottom for you. Now Firebug has an inspector that I'll click on. This inspector essentially follows me to where I'm going, and if I'm looking for the target name of this GUI element, I'll click on that blue. Once you have that blue box around the element, just click on it, and right away you can see the target name for that GUI element. So I know right away now that the target name is name is equal to user name, and that's all I need. So I can copy this. So always copy. Don't type it yourself. Copy it because it's very easy to make mistakes. So let's come back into our IDE, and I can say I want to type. So my command is to type. So I'm going to say type because that's what I want to do. Now in my target, I know that name is equal to user name because it's telling me here that name is user name. And I can say value. Let me say Thai testing. Okay, let's make sure that this works. So if I was to run just this line alone, I'll right click and I'll press execute this command. Now pay attention to this field over here. If it works, this field should get changed from tutorial to Thai testing. So let's see. There we go. So you can see that we actually changed it from tutorial to Thai testing. So that's how you manually find your targets. But before we go any further, let me explain the different types or the different ways we can find our targets. So I'm going to go into our class notes very quickly, and there's a video for this as well. So I'm not going to elaborate on this, but there are several ways we can find our locators. We can find a locator by ID. We can find our target or locator by name and filter, by link, by tag ID, by tag and class, and the list goes on and on and on. But the one I want to show you guys quickly is the XPath. And as I said, there's a video for this as well, so I won't spend a lot of time on this. XPath is essentially the full address of the target. So every GUI element has an address. And if I want to copy the address of this GUI element, this guy here, so I'm using name now, but I can also use the XPath. So let me show you. Inside a new line. Okay, now let me go into my Firebug. And in my Firebug, I want to get the XPath name of this GUI element. So what will I do? I'll open up my IDE. Open up my Firebug. Click on the inspector. Take my inspector to my username text box. Click on it. Once I have it, I know that there's a name in there, but I'm going to right click on that box and I'll say copy XPath. So when I copy the XPath, I'll come back into my IDE and I'll paste the XPath as my target. So I'll paste the XPath. Now once you've pasted your XPath, always make sure to add an extra backslash in front of it. Otherwise it would not work. So I'll put my extra backslash in there, and I can say type because I'm trying to type something in, and I can say, let's pick a different value. So I'll say XPath demo. Okay, so let's see if this works. So I'll right click on this line and I'll press execute this command, and as you can see, the username got the value of XPath demo. So there are different ways you can find your target, but as I said, there's a video for that, so I won't go into detail with that. Okay, so let's move on to the next topic in IDE. Let me show you how to create parameters. A lot of you now know why we have parameters in our programs. Parameters are created for easy maintenance. That's one of the key reasons why we create parameters. Let me explain what I mean. So over here you have a script that you are using username, for example, and I'm using tie testing as the value for my username. Now imagine a typical script at work would have several lines. It's going to be a very, very long script. So for this example, you might need to use your username and the value several times in your script. If you're doing that, imagine one day if you have to change the value of your username from tie testing to something else. That would mean you literally going into every single line in your script to find where you defined username and tie testing. That's a lot of work that you don't need to do. The easier way of doing this is to have a parameter at the very top, define the parameter as your username, give it a value, tie testing, and for the rest of your script, you would always use the name of the parameter. Let me show you how to do that. So typically we define our parameters first. So I'm going to insert a new command, and the keyword for parameters is what we call store. So I want to store a parameter. I'm going to use store, and you can read about it and how to use it. And I will say I will give my parameter a value. So I want to say my parameter's value is tutorial, and now I'll give my parameter a name. So the name of my parameter, I could call it maybe P for parameter, and I can say user name. So now whenever I run this script, the first thing Selenium does is it knows that I'm trying to save a parameter that is P user name. Alright, now in this section here, I want to call this parameter. How do you call the parameter? It's pretty simple. All I have to do is call the name of my parameter. So I know the name of my parameter is p user name. So in my value, I'm going to replace the actual value with my p user name. So to do that, I need a $sign and I need a curly bracket to tell Selenium IDE this is a variable, and I'll put p user name in there. Close my curly bracket, and that's how you do it. Now let's run this. Ideally, this should basically have tutorial when I run this. So let's go into the website, Mercury Tours, and this here should be replaced with tutorial. So if I run this, execute this command, as you can see, oh no, sorry, this is the wrong. I think it's this. Oh well, I can change my target. The target is wrong. So it failed. I can go into my log. I know what the problem is. And the problem was this is not found. But if you don't know, make sure you go into your log and you read about it. Let me change the name of my target. So I know this is the correct name. So I'll come in here and replace that there. Okay. So now let's run this again. So I'll right click on it, execute this command. Now see what's going on. Instead of the actual tutorial, Selenium is showing me the name of the parameter. That's because Selenium does not understand what p username means. For it to understand it, you have to first of all run the line where you're declaring the variable. So if I run this first, and then I run this now, you can see that now he knows what it is. So Selenium has replaced my name of my variable with tutorial. And the beauty of this is I can use this line in many places in my script, and I only change it once. So if my manager tells me, Ty, the username is no longer tutorial, is now Ty, all I have to do is just come to my first line and change it from tutorial to Ty. Let's try it out. So I run this as well, execute this command, and I come in here, execute this command. You can see it's changed to Ty. So that's how you use tutorial. That's how you use parameters in Selenium IDE. So that's the end of Selenium IDE tutorial, and I'll take a little pause. Then I'll show you how to convert your Selenium IDE script into a programming language like Java. Okay, so before we can do this, I have to explain what we know as WebDriver. So I explained this before earlier on, and WebDriver is one of the family products of Selenium Suite that allows you to convert your Selenium IDE script into any programming language you want to use. And why do we do this? We do this because it gives us more power. It allows you to do more things with your script. So a lot of you by now would have downloaded Eclipse IDE. So this is going to be a Java Eclipse. This is going to be a Java IDE. A lot of you by now should have downloaded the Selenium Java driver. If you haven't, please refer to your class notes. And this here is the middleman that will translate the Selenium code into Java. And lastly, everybody should have downloaded Java itself. By Java, we mean your JDK. This is what would actually interpret the Java and ensures that your Java code is valid. So without further ado, I'm going to convert this little script I have in here. So let's start from scratch, make it easy for everyone to understand. Okay, so I've created a script while you guys were not watching. I have a script that creates a policy in Hippet. So this script here will open up the Hippet application, and it will create a very simple script. Let's run it to make sure that it works properly. Oh, I believe it's this. Oh, where did I save it? Oh, right here. This is it. Okay. So let me save it so I don't lose it. So I'll say File, Save Test Case As. So I put up my Selenium script in week 8. So I'll call this test case create policy. Okay. Press OK. So that's my test case. Now I'm going to run this. So let me click on the first line and run this. So this will open up my Hippet application. It will create a policy for me in Hippet, as you can see in the background, and there's a checkpoint to check to make sure that this was successful. Okay, so that's beauty. As you can see, I have a verified text to make sure that the policy was saved successfully. So we know that this works. So this is a very simple script that creates a policy at Hippet. How do I convert this into Java? So what I'll do is I'll press on File, Export Test Case As. Now we have a lot of options here. Let me quickly explain what it is. The first option you've seen is asking you what programming language do you want to use. So in this example is Java. The next thing is asking you is the framework. What testing framework do you want to use? As you know, we have different frameworks. In this course, we're going to show you the JUnit Framework and the TestNG framework. And lastly is asking you what Selenium tool do you want to use for that conversion. So in this example, we want to use the Webdriver tool for the conversion. So I'll select Java, JUnit 4, that's the latest JUnit, and I'll select Webdriver. So once I do that, it's very quick, it happens really fast. It's asking me to save the file. This is going to be a Java file, so I can call my Java file. Let me type. Okay, I can call it create policy, and I can save it. Now once it's saved, let's go into the folder to see what it looks like. So I called it I believe I called it create policy. There you go. If you notice now, this has a .java at the end of it, which is trying to tell you that this is a Java file. Now a lot of you, this might be the first time you've seen what a Java code looks like. Let me show you how to open it. You can use Notepad, but I prefer to use Notepad++. So let me click on Notepad++, and in here you will see what the Java code looks like. So this is my Java code that will create a policy at Hippet. Okay. Now, what do we do with this? We have to take this into a Java IDE to run it there, because I can't run it here. This is just a Notepad++. So this is where you have to go open up your Eclipse. So everyone should have Eclipse open, and create a new. So you press File, New, Java Project. We can give the Java project a name. So I can call it, let me call it maybe John's Java. Just call it John. I'll call it John's. Yeah, John is fine. Just a random name. That's the name of my project. I can call it Hippet. So that's a better name. Hippet. Alright, so I'll press Finish to create a Java project. So it's a very powerful application, so make sure you give it some time to load up. Okay, so then go into my, okay, right here. So there you go. So that's my, let me close this. Save changes, sure. Okay, so this is what most of you see the first time you open up Eclipse. So in my HipHead project, there's nothing in there. So the first thing we have to create is what we call a package. So I'll right click on this and I'll press New, Package, and I'll give it a name. So I can give my package a name of John Package. Sorry, HipHead. So I can say HipHead Package, press Finish. Once I have a package, you see this little, like a package symbol that has like 2 lines across it. I think it's meant to show the package being wrapped up. But essentially, what is a package? A package in Java is where we put all our class files. A class file is where you put your program. So when you have many classes inside one package, that means all those classes share the same libraries. Let me show you how to create a class. So I'll create a class inside my package. I'll click on the package name, press New, and I'll press Class. Now in my class, I'll give my class a name. I can call my class name, say maybe HipHead. No, let's call it. Doesn't matter what I call it really. Class HipHead. Okay. So once you've done this, you press Finish. And Java or Eclipse will create an empty class for you. So this is where we're going to run the Java code. Now go back into your Notepad++. We're going to copy the code from here into Eclipse IDE. Before we do that, let me quickly explain what you see here in front of you. This is your Java code and this is the package. Now because we're not using this package, I'm going to change this to the package I created. So I created a package called HipHead package. So I'm going to copy that, put that in here. Now these are the libraries that Java will need to run this script. So just leave that. That was created for you. You don't have to worry about it. These here are the different parameters that Java needs to run this code. That's also fairly standard. You don't have to worry about that. One thing you have to pay attention to is the base URL, which is essentially the website you want to go to run the test. Be very careful because sometimes the way it's converted, when you're running the test, you might run into some trouble because if you notice here, we have the address in here. There's a backslash, and right here is also trying to get the base URL and is adding another extra backslash in there. If you can see this extra backslash. This might be trouble for you if you're trying to run this code. But let's run it. I'll show you first of all, let it fail, then we'll try and fix it. So we've changed the package name, and this is your entire Java code that is trying to create your policy for you. And you can see some other stuff in here that I'll explain later on to you. The next thing we have to do is make sure the class name matches the name of the class we have in Eclipse. So I called it class HipHead. So I'll copy my class HipHead and bring it here. So I have class HipHead. Same thing here. Make sure you change. I think it was, you don't have to. We don't really have to, but as long as it's changed here, we're okay. So after that, let's copy everything from here and go into Eclipse and do our pasting. So I'll paste in there. And we have our Java code. But we're not done yet. As you can see, there are a lot of errors. So whenever you see a little X on the side, this is telling you that Java does not understand the code. So this is going to fail. But I can tell you what is missing. What is missing is we need to import this, the middle guy. We need to import the Selenium Java driver files. That's what will tell Java how to understand Selenium script. So to do that is very simple. I'll go into my project called HipHead. I'll right click on my project HipHead, click on properties, and I will go into add external jars. Now a lot of you should have this file already. We're using Selenium 2.53. Now you make sure you select the file outside of the library and also inside of the library. So I'll do the one outside first. Press OK. Make sure both of them shows up. Then I'll do the ones inside the library. So I'll click on all, select all, and there you go. So now I've already imported all the external Java files that will make Java understand Selenium script. Press OK. Once we press OK, do you notice all the errors are gone? Just like that. Because now Java understands what's going on. So that's it. I'm done. I'm ready to run. So let's try to run this. So I'll push the run button and this should run my converted script. Now it's asking me, what framework do you want to use? So I think it's time I explain the framework to you. I told you guys in this program, we'll be teaching you two different frameworks. We have two types of framework we'll be showing you. We have the JUnit Framework and we have the TestNG Framework. The JUnit Framework, whenever you see before and you see test and you see after, you know right away this is a JUnit test. And JUnit test try to simplify what you're doing. It tells you what's going to happen before the test is started. It tells you what's going to happen while the test is running, and it tells you what's going to happen after the test is finished running. I think you don't have to worry about after. I don't really use that. I mean, all you need to worry about is what it's doing before. And what it's doing before is trying to select what browser you want to use. Because I recorded this in IDE and I use Firefox browser, you can see that's why I have by default a Firefox driver in here. It's also trying to find the website to go to. So now it knows the browser, it's trying to find the website. So we call that the base URL. So it goes, okay, Hipet is located here, so that's the base URL. And lastly, it's giving it a 30 seconds wait because a lot of websites take time to load. So Selenium IDE in that conversion is like, I'm going to wait for this website to load up and I'm going to give that wait 30 seconds. You can change it. If it's a very fast website, you can change it to 10 seconds or 5 seconds. And if it's a very slow website, you can make it 30 seconds. And lastly, the test is, wants to start testing. And after is what happens after the test is done. And these are things we call exceptions, which we'll explain to you when we start doing Java in class. Let's run this. Let's see what will happen. So I'm going to run this and it's asking me what framework. I'm going to select the JUnit Framework and press OK. It's asking me to save my work, so I'm going to press OK to save my work. And it will open up, excuse me. Now, if you notice there's a problem, it's not working. And the reason why it's not working, I'll wait for it to fail, but the reason why it's not working is for that extra backslash. You can see in here, there's a double backslash, which is as a result of, well, I'll let it fail first, but just to save time, is because, oh, so it failed. Okay, so when you get a failure, how do you debug your failure? How do you know what's wrong? There's several ways of doing that. You can either look at your script, it will tell you what line failed. So, or you can actually look at the failure trace. This failure trace here will tell you what the problem is. So it's telling me unable to locate the element, login, blah, 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 right? Now, if you want to know what line that is, you can see, okay, let's make it bigger. 'Oops. and we're looking for the name of the class. So you're scrolling down looking for the name of the class. So I know right now my name of class is class Hippet. So I can see right here. So that's where the line number is. So it's telling me when I was running this test, there was a problem on line 28. So now go to line 28 in your script, and this is line 28. Now it's telling me that I can't find this guy. The reason why you can't find it is because this address is wrong. Because you're trying to add a backslash here, and you're also trying to add another backslash here, and that's why it's failing. So I'm going to remove that extra backslash, save my work, and I'm going to run again. The beauty about WebDriver is WebDriver actually opens up a new browser for you, unlike IDE. So you don't have to keep opening up a new browser, it does it for you. But let's run this now, and let's see if it would work. Okay. So, bang, it looks like it's working. So you open up the website, I can see it login, and you should click on the consent and create a policy. Like we got a failure, so something failed. Alright, so now the same thing, we do the same thing again. So you scroll down and you try to find what line failed. So I can expand this line, and I'm looking for class Hippet. So you go into your class Hippet 34. So we know that line 34 failed. And the problem here is with the management. So driver link text management. So I think the problem is he doesn't know how to click on this. Where is it? Let's close this one. I think he's trying to click, not this, nope, Firefox. Oh, I think he's closed it. Did he close it or did I close it? Okay. What I'll do is, what you do is go into your, go into the application. I know that you have to click on consent first before you can click on management. So the fact that I don't see that line in my script, I know there's a problem. So I can create one manually. So I'll do driver dot find element. Let's try it by XPath, because that's probably just the easiest one to use. And now I will go find, so it's asking me for the XPath. So I'll go back into my GUI and I'll find the XPath for that image. So we're trying to find the XPath for this. So everyone knows how to use your Firebug. So you turn on your Firebug by clicking on this icon. You take the inspector to the consent menu and you click on it. So this is the DOM name, or you can call it the backend name. So I'll right click on this and I'll press copy XPath. So now I have the XPath. I'll come into my script and it's telling me the XPath is a string. So I'll put my string in there, remove this XPath it's asking me for, and I'll put that in, and done. I have my XPath. So this should now click on the consent menu before it clicks on the management submenu. So let's try it out. So this is how you debug. You know, you have a problem, you try and guess what the problem is, and you move on. So I've saved my work, and let's play back. Alright, so that did not work as well. And the mistake here was my mistake. So I said driver find element by XPath, but what should it do to it? I didn't tell it to click on it. So that's why you found it, but you know what to do with it. So I will say dot click. Don't always forget that. There has to be an action that you want to happen. So I'll save this now, and I'll play back, and we should be okay now. So there you go. You know it's going to work right away. You clicked on consent, you clicked on management, and now we can create the policy. So we have another problem. So don't get scared when you see it. Another problem here is telling me something is not clickable. So there's something not clickable. A lot of you might want to see exactly where your script got crashed, or what was the last thing that happened in your script. Because right now, JUnit, closes the test. It doesn't matter if the test is a pass or a fail, JUnit always closes the browser. So you don't know exactly what happened. How do you tell the browser to actually stop and stay where it is so you can see it? To do that, you go into your after, and this is what happens after the test is done. So there's a method called teardown. Now, in that method, this line here, believes it or not, actually, this is the line that closes the browser. So if you want your browser to be there, so you know exactly what's going on, I'll remove this line, I'll comment it out, and that way the browser can stay. So let me push play now, and let's see exactly where it's getting stuck. So save your work as always, and let's play back. So if you can see, perfect, this is good. So I think what's going on here is, number one, I noticed that in my recording, I wanted my directive outcome to be a deny. But I can see that it's not actually changing to deny. It's still staying as allow. And for whatever reason, that's preventing this guy from clicking. Let's see what the error message is. So by just looking at the browser, I can tell what my problem is. But let's go into the error message. So it's saying the element is not clickable. So I think what's going on is this done here is not clickable. There are several reasons for that, but let's find where the problem child is. So I can see right away is class hippet Java number 58. So double click on that, and it's telling me I cannot click on the save button. Okay, let's see why you cannot do that. A lot of times in automation, the problem could be this guy here at the top. That could be the problem. Maybe that's what's throwing everything off, right? So you have to basically make sure you understand every single line in your program to make sure that it is the right thing, that it is there for a purpose. So I know this is the deny. This is what selects the deny. This was selects, I believe, selects my deny as well. This here is, it clicks on something before the save. Okay, so I'm assuming the problem is I'm not changing my outcome to deny. Why is that? My outcome is not changing to deny. So I think the problem is somewhere here, because I don't know what that guy is doing. This directive detail blah blah blah, I don't know what he's doing. Let me remove this guy. Let's try to run it and see if that'll make any difference, because it's telling me this is the line that has a problem, but that looks good to me. It looks okay, but I don't know what this guy is doing. So I'll take it out and I'll run my script again. Now he was close to selecting it, but he didn't actually select it, right? So there's a drop down there, but he didn't actually select my outcome. Now, everyone might not have this problem. This is just something unique to my script, but I'm showing you how to debug. So I know that this has an effect. It did have an effect on it, but it didn't fix my problem. So maybe this is not the bad guy. So let's put this guy back on. What about I can remove this maybe and see what's going on. I can remove this. What about this guy here? This click business here. I don't know what that's doing. Let me remove this. Because I know the problem is one of these lines. So I'm going to save my work, playback, and let's see if that will fix my problem. Ah, see? Now we got the deny, and everything works fine. Awesome. It's beautiful. Okay. So my checkpoints will kick in, and because I closed my. Oops, it's still running. Let it finish. Alright, so it seems like something failed, but let's see what failed. 62, so this, okay, so we have more problems. So that line failed, this save, submit. Alright, so what we can do is we can take it off, that's always the first thing you should try. If there's anything that fails, take it off and see what impact it has on your code. So let's take that off. That's the problem child. Let's take it off. So I'm going to save my script. And let's push playback. Let's see what happens. Alright, lovely. So that was a pass. As you can see, the lovely green color. So this tells you everything ran successfully. So I've taught you guys how to debug as well. So let's go back to our class notes. I showed you how to debug your script. As always, this is reality. 50% of the time you have to do this on your job. And how do you debug? So you debug by whenever you see a red, you read the error message, and you do that by looking for the line number in your code. And that typically means you find your class name and find the number next to the class name. Double click on the error message. It typically shows you where the problem is. I have a personal style. I take things off. I take it off, comment it out, run my code, and see what effect that problem child has on my code. So the first one I debugged, everyone saw what I did here. I noticed that there was no way for the program to click on consent before management. So I created one manually. So I used my Firebug to find the XPath for the consent image. And once I found it, I essentially copied the code above, find element by XPath, and I said clicked. So that fixed the problem. I kept going. The next problem came from, I noticed that I couldn't save with a deny. So it told me that something somewhere was wrong, but the error told me the problem was in line number 58. So I started working my way up, or you can go down. So I started by taking this guy off. That didn't really have an effect on it. I know this works, I know this works. So this guy here is the next culprit. So I took that off, and you can see that I was able to save successfully. Then the next problem I had was somehow at the end of it, this line was giving us problem. So right away I did the same thing. Took it off and checked out my code. I was able to run successfully. I don't need it. If you guys remember in QTP, this is a problem unique to the HIPAC application where there's always an extra line added. I don't know, for whatever reason it is. We have the same issue with QTP. So it's the same problem here as well. I took it off and I ran my script and everything was okay. A lot of you, don't forget, please always tell the driver not to quit, meaning don't close the browser, because if he closes the browser, you don't know what the problem is. You know things is failing, but you don't see exactly where things are failing. So what I do to avoid that is, when I'm debugging, I comment out the driver.quit, which is what happens after the test is running. So guys, here you have it. This is how you convert your script from Selenium IDE into Java. And people will tell you, you know, I can do it from scratch. Yes, you can do it from scratch, but look how much time I've saved by just converting, then fixing the converted script. That's so much easier than writing this from scratch. Yes, if I write it from scratch, these problems will not be there, because every single line will be me going to Firebug, getting the name of the GUI element and doing it from scratch. But welcome to 2016. Things are more efficient and things, we don't have time. So this is the fastest way to do it. So that's the end of this class. If you have any questions, let us know and we'll be able to help you out. Thank you.